almost getting ready to say this. Toronto's so bad. Yeah, exactly. It turned out it was perfect for Fringe. But our first real day, wasn't it out? It was in Guelph, where we did exactly the scene that you auditioned with. And I think that's sort of where we started to lay down the foundations, because we're both talkers. And I think that's where we actually started to lay down the foundations of our working, I guess our off-screen dynamic, which has fed so much into our on-screen dynamic.
It was minus 27 degrees, Josh.
Yes.
And I'm from Australia, where it's normally about 20 degrees.
Yeah. Cutest thing. So my first day with Anna, 5 days into the show, obviously. Oh my God, it's snowing out. This is incredible. I've never seen snowfall. Flash forward 37 days. Oh God, I've got to get out of this country. Please, I don't know if I can do this anymore. This is too much. How does anybody go outside and not starve to death in the winter? Because it takes a bit of getting used to, minus 27.
Can you guys talk a little bit about the formation of your characters? Did you try out different looks at all? You look very different from Walter here, much more put together. And how do you think the look, the feel of these characters informed how you played them?
A whole series of decisions, as we know, as actors are made when you're putting a character together, when you do your research, and I certainly did research the character from what I was able to glean from that one scene. But there was a fair bit to be gleaned there. And so I started to look at the mannerisms. I researched the effect of that amount of isolation, that amount of electric shock therapy, that amount of drug use, the abuses that he'd caused to himself and to others, and mental instability, and started to find a shape for the guy, started to find a voice for the guy. And he got shorter and shorter as he more leant over, and more chins. And so I suppose the physicality led me into that. So by the time I got to do the show, I had a pretty clear idea of what I wanted Walter to be. But that was the research kind of took me there.
Mm-hmm. And how much of yourself do you guys bring to your roles? Basically, I have someone here who wants to know if you really love milkshakes like Walter.
I don't. Sorry to disappoint.
That's kind of a theory question, and I think it depends on which camp you fall into. I fall into the camp that you can't help but see every character through your lens.
Yeah.
But I think it's a totally valid, equally valid idea to think that it's a sort of an external thing that you build. So, for me, I can't say with any confidence that I see Peter as a complete third party, a third entity, because I make my interpretations for him based upon my experience. And it gets easier as the show goes on, because actually now we live an experience together where that becomes the same thing. So for myself, I think you bleed through no matter what. And I also feel like a lot of good camera acting, not necessarily theater acting, is removing the veils between yourself and the audience. So the less things you can try to put up between you and them, I think the better. But I don't think that's the only way. I mean, I certainly think there are other ways to attack that.
Now, in the first season, this is a show where information has kind of been doled out in bits and pieces to the audience. Was that the case for the actors as well, or did they come to you from the beginning and say, look, there's 2 universes, and what's it like to work with
Yes, of course. They told us everything right from the very beginning.